Woman is in custody in connection to a murder in Jackson. The incident happened earlier today in the 100 block of Woodway Drive. The suspect name is Michaela Davis. She is 25 years old. The victim, Kanasia Bowie, later died at a local hospital.
January 28th, 2025. Kanasia Bowie typed out 7 words that would be her last declaration of freedom. I am single and don't mess with nobody. She hit post. Finally done with the drama. Finally moving on. 24 hours later, gunshots shattered the silence on Woodway Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. 12:30 in the morning. A woman lay bleeding on the pavement, her phone still glowing beside her with that final post. The person who pulled the trigger? Someone she once loved. Someone she trusted enough to meet in the dead of night. What happens when a breakup becomes a death sentence? When the person who swore they loved you decides that if they can't have you, nobody can. When jealousy doesn't just break hearts, it stops them. This is the story of Kanasia Bowie. A hard-working Southern girl with a tight-knit family and a bright future. Her only mistake? Believing she could walk away from someone who refused to let her go. Welcome to Shadows of Crime. If you're ready for a story that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about toxic love, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from today. We want to know who's rolling with us. Before the headlines, before the tragedy, before her name became another statistic in Jackson's homicide count, Kanasia Bowie was just a regular girl trying to build something real. Born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi, Kanasia embodied everything you'd expect from a Southern girl with strong family values. She wasn't flashy, wasn't chasing clout, wasn't trying to be someone she wasn't. She was grounded, genuine, and focused on creating a stable future for herself. After graduating high school in 2018, she enrolled at Hines Community College with big dreams and even bigger ambitions. College was supposed to be her ticket to something better, her pathway to opportunities her parents never had. But like so many young adults navigating the transition from teenager to independent adult, reality hit hard and fast. Bills started piling up. Rent didn't pay itself. Textbooks cost more than groceries. Responsibilities stacked higher than her class schedule. Survival mode kicked in, and Kanasia made a tough choice. She left college to work full-time. But here's the thing about Kanasia. She didn't just work. She excelled. Her employers loved her. Her coworkers respected her. She became the kind of employee every manager dreams of having on their team. Reliable, punctual, professional. She showed up on time, every time. She didn't call in sick to binge-watch shows or nurse fake hangovers. She didn't make excuses. She just did the work, and she did it well. Work wasn't her whole identity, though. Kanasia had something far more important driving her: family. If you scrolled through her social media, you wouldn't find the usual complaints about life being unfair or parents being annoying. Instead, you'd see post after post celebrating the 2 people who mattered most to her, her mom and dad. Mother's Day, Kanasia was there with a heartfelt tribute. Father's Day, another post honoring her dad. Birthdays, she never missed one. She worshipped her parents publicly, loudly, and unapologetically, making sure the world knew how grateful she was for everything they'd done. In one post, she wrote about her mother. "This woman here protects me. She's a queen, and man, that smile is a true blessing. She gave us life and sacrifice without us asking. Don't know how she did it, but she always made a way." That wasn't performative. That was real love, real gratitude, real recognition of the sacrifices her parents made to give her a shot at life. While so many young people take their parents for granted, Kanasia understood struggle because she watched her parents fight through it. She saw the late nights, the missed meals, the hard choices they made so she could have better. Her life was simple, stable, and peaceful. No unnecessary drama. No toxic friendships. No chaos. Just a young woman building her future. Brick by brick. Maintaining tight family bonds and setting clear goals for where she wanted to go. Everything was on track until she walked into that LGBTQ+ community event, until she met Michaela Davis, and everything she'd carefully built started crumbling. Kanasia thought she was meeting someone who understood her, someone who shared her identity, her struggles, her world, someone who could walk beside her as she continued building the life she wanted. She had no idea she was walking straight into a nightmare. Both Kanasia and Michaela Davis were part of the LGBTQ+ community, and they crossed paths at a community celebration event. There was initial attraction, shared experiences, common ground. For Kanasia, it probably felt like meeting someone who finally understood her world, her identity, her journey. But Michaela Davis wasn't who she appeared to be. At 25 years old, living in Jackson, Michaela had built her entire personality around a rap artist who glorified violence and misogyny. And here's the thing, she didn't just listen to the music, she became it. She adopted the aggressive mannerisms, the toxic attitudes, the dangerous worldview. She copied the flow, mimicked the cadence, and worst of all, internalized how her idol talked about women, disposable, controllable, possessions. That's how Michaela treated the women she dated. She had the ego of someone who thought they were untouchable, the aggression of someone constantly trying to prove something, and the emotional intelligence of a brick wall. Empathy? That didn't exist in her vocabulary. Accountability? Never heard of it. Michaela walked around acting like she was the toughest person in the room, rapping about blocks and violence and keeping women in check. She posted videos online, spitting bars about not going home, staying on the block, telling women to leave her alone while simultaneously obsessing over them. The contradiction was wild, but nobody called her out on it. She was performing masculinity in the most toxic way possible, and somewhere along the line, she convinced herself that violence was strength and control was love. But here's what Kanasia didn't know when she met Michaela at that event. This wasn't Michaela's first relationship, and it definitely wasn't her first time being violent. Michaela had a documented history of putting her hands on partners. This wasn't a one-time thing, wasn't a moment of anger she regretted. It was a pattern. Previous relationships had ended with bruises, police reports, and restraining orders. She wasn't just controlling, she was legitimately dangerous. The kind of person who hits first, manipulates later, and never, ever takes accountability for the damage she causes. But Kanasia didn't know all of that, at least not at first. What she did have were friends. Friends who saw Michaela for exactly what she was from day one. Friends who pulled her aside and said, "Run, get out while you can." Friends who recognized the red flags waving so hard they could have been seen from space. But Kanasia didn't listen. Maybe she thought she was different. Maybe she believed love could change Michaela, that her love would be the thing that finally softened those hard edges. Maybe she thought this time would be the exception. That Michaela's past didn't define their future. Love doesn't just make you blind, it makes you stupid. It makes you ignore every warning sign, every gut feeling, every friend who's begging you to see what they see. It makes you believe you can fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Kanasia's friends saw the danger. They warned her. But she stayed anyway, convinced that her situation would be different. It wasn't. Real talk. Have you ever ignored red flags because you thought you could fix someone? Have you ever stayed when you knew you should have left? Drop a comment and confess. No judgment here. We've all been fools for love at some point. But Kanasia's story, it's a reminder that some people can't be fixed. Some people are just broken in ways that'll break you too. At first, things seemed okay. There were cute moments, shared laughs, the kind of connection that makes you think you found something real. Kanasia probably felt like she'd finally met someone who got her, someone who understood what it meant to navigate the world as a queer woman in the South. But the mask started slipping fast. Michaela's true nature came roaring out like a freight train with no brakes. The jealousy kicked in first, questioning where Kanasia was going, who she was talking to, why she didn't respond to texts fast enough. Then came the control, dictating what she could wear, who she could see, how she should act. And finally, the manipulation, twisting every argument to make Kanasia feel like she was the problem, like she was the one causing all the drama. Jealousy, control, manipulation. The toxic trifecta. Kanasia finally woke up and realized she deserved better. She made the decision to walk away, to free herself from a relationship that was suffocating her. It takes courage to leave, especially when you've invested time and emotion into someone. But Kanasia found that courage. Michaela, she didn't take it well. Instead of moving on like a mature adult, instead of accepting that the relationship was over and working on herself, Michaela took her rage to Facebook. And what she posted wasn't just petty. It was cruel, public, and designed to humiliate. On December 10th, 2024, Michaela posted, "Y'all be talking about fat folk need love too. We get with them, and they get to doing skinny woman stuff like, nah, I ain't putting up with no extra weight." Read that again. She publicly body-shamed Kanasia for the entire world to see. Turned her ex-girlfriend's body into a punchline, a complaint, a reason why the relationship failed. As if Kanasia's weight was the problem, and not Michaela's inability to treat another human being with basic respect. But she wasn't done. Hours later, she doubled down. "From now on, you can't be no bigger than me, and I ain't but 133 pounds. Being honest, 133 pounds, baby. So bring your scale to my DMs. I ain't doing this stuff no more." The audacity, the delusion, the absolute lack of self-awareness. Michaela was out here demanding potential partners bring a scale to her DMs, like she was conducting weight auditions for her next relationship. As if anyone with half a brain cell would want to date someone who publicly humiliates their exes and sets weight requirements like they're hiring for a job. And here's the irony nobody missed. Michaela pursued Kanasia. Nobody forced her into that relationship. Nobody put a gun to her head and said, "Date this woman, or else." She chose Kanasia. She wanted Kanasia. She chased Kanasia. But now that the relationship was over, now that Kanasia had the audacity to walk away, Michaela was acting like she got scammed, conveniently forgetting she chose to be there. Rewriting history to play the victim, blaming Kanasia's body for her own toxic behavior. Kanasia could have gone off. She could have matched Michaela's energy, fired back with her own insults, dragged her through the mud the way Michaela was trying to drag her. But she didn't. Instead, she posted a simple, confident response. "Studs love their ex. I'm fine. Fat and fine." That's it. No essay. No paragraph-long rant. Just a clapback that said everything it needed to say. She wasn't going to let Michaela's insecurity define her. She knew her worth, and she wasn't about to let a bitter ex-girlfriend make her question it. But that response? It sent Michaela over the edge. While she was busy posting on Facebook, airing out her grievances for likes and comments, she was also stalking Kanasia's every move, watching her stories, checking her posts, seething with jealousy every time Kanasia smiled, every time she looked happy, every time she showed the world she was thriving without Michaela in her life. This wasn't about weight. It was never about weight. It was about control. Michaela couldn't stand the fact that Kanasia had taken her power back. that she was living her life freely, that she was moving on. And when Michaela realized she'd lost that control, she snapped. On January 28, 2025, Kanasia posted her final declaration. I am single and don't mess with nobody. Don't attach my name to nobody. Her final warning, her line in the sand. She was done with the games, done with the drama, done being connected to someone who refused to let her go. She was moving on, and she wanted the world to know it. But Michaela had other plans. Less than 24 hours after that post, Kanasia would be dead. And the woman who claimed to love her would be the one holding the gun. The day before the murder, Michaela and Kanasia were arguing. Not just a regular disagreement. Michaela was losing it. Completely unhinged. The thought of Kanasia living happily without her, thriving without her, moving on without her, was unbearable. So she came up with a plan. Michaela reached out to Kanasia, pretending she wanted to talk. Let's meet up. Let's work this out. The kind of message that sounds reasonable on the surface. The kind that makes you think maybe there's a chance for closure, for peace, for a clean ending. Kanasia, probably exhausted from the drama and hoping to finally put this chapter behind her, agreed. They arranged to meet on Woodway Drive in Jackson, a quiet street, late at night. Just the two of them. January 29th, 2025, 12:30 in the morning. Kanasia arrived at the 100 block of Woodway Drive. Maybe she thought they'd talk things through like adults. Maybe she thought they'd finally get the closure they both needed. Maybe she thought this would be the conversation that let them both move forward. She had no idea she was walking into a trap. Instead of talking, instead of working things out, instead of acting like a human being with even a shred of decency, Michaela Davis pulled out a gun and fired. The sound of gunshots shattered the silence. Kanasia collapsed, bleeding, her body crumpling to the pavement. The woman who just hours earlier had declared her independence, who had finally freed herself from a toxic relationship, was now fighting for her life on a dark street in Jackson. And Michaela? She didn't stay. She didn't call for help. She didn't drop to her knees and realize what she'd just done. She ran, like a coward, like someone who knew exactly what they'd done and couldn't face the consequences. She left Kanasia there, alone, scared, bleeding out on the cold pavement, dying. Emergency services arrived and rushed Kanasia to a local hospital. The paramedics did everything they could. The doctors fought to save her. But the damage was too severe. The injuries were too catastrophic. Kanasia Bowie was pronounced dead. A daughter, a friend, a hard-working woman with her whole life ahead of her. Gone. Because the person who claimed to love her couldn't handle being told no. Why? Because Michaela Davis couldn't handle rejection. Because her fragile ego shattered under the weight of her own insecurity. Because she believed that if she couldn't have Kanasia, nobody could. She chose murder over moving on. She chose violence over healing. She chose to destroy a life because she couldn't control it. Think about that for a second. Kanasia didn't cheat. She didn't betray Michaela. She didn't do anything except decide she deserved better and walk away. That's it. She exercised her right to leave a relationship that was hurting her, and for that, she was killed. Michaela couldn't accept that Kanasia had moved on, couldn't accept that she was happy without her, couldn't accept that the control she once had was gone. So instead of dealing with her emotions like a functioning adult, instead of going to therapy, or talking to friends, or finding healthy ways to process rejection, she grabbed a gun and ended a life. Kanasia's parents, the ones she celebrated on every holiday, the ones she called queens and blessings, now have to bury their daughter. Her friends, the ones who warned her about Michaela, now have to live with the guilt of wondering if they could have done more. Her co-workers, the ones who relied on her and respected her, now have an empty seat where she used to sit. All because Michaela Davis couldn't let go. If you know someone who's obsessed with their ex, who can't let go, who's spiraling into jealousy and rage, say something. Do something. Don't wait until it's too late. Drop a comment if you've ever seen this kind of obsession up close. Did you speak up? Did you stay silent? Kanasia's friends warned her, but she didn't listen. Sometimes the people we love can't hear us until it's too late. Detective Tommy Brown of the Jackson Police Department responded to the scene on Woodway Drive. What he found was a young woman's life cut short, a crime scene that told a story of rage and obsession, and a trail that led straight to one person. The investigation moved fast. By the end of the day, January 29th, 2025, the same day Kanasia was killed, Michaela Davis was arrested and charged with murder. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Witnesses placed her at the scene. Phone records showed communication between the two women leading up to the meeting. And then there were the social media posts, a digital diary of Michaela's obsession, her rage, her inability to let go. The trail Michaela left was impossible to ignore. Her obsession with Kanasia was documented online for everyone to see. The body-shaming posts from December 10th, the demands about weight limits, the public humiliation campaign, the threats disguised as venting, the harassment masked as heartbreak. It was all there in black and white, time-stamped and archived, a public record of a woman losing control and refusing to accept that her ex-girlfriend had moved on. Every post, every comment, every bitter rant was evidence of the jealousy and rage that eventually exploded into violence. Now, at 25 years old, Michaela Davis sits in a jail cell facing a murder charge. She threw her entire life away over a breakup. No more Facebook rants. No more tough guy persona. No more pretending to be untouchable. Just another criminal who thought she was above consequences. Just another person who believed the rules didn't apply to her. Just another statistic in the criminal justice system. The community of Jackson, Mississippi was shaken. This was the city's 5th homicide of 2025. By comparison, there were 12 homicides by this date in 2024. So the numbers were actually down. But numbers don't capture the pain. Statistics don't tell you about the mother who has to bury her daughter, the father who has to stand at a funeral instead of a wedding, the friends who have to delete text messages they'll never get responses to. A family lost their daughter, the one who celebrated them on every holiday, who called them queens and blessings, who recognized their sacrifices and loved them loudly. Friends lost someone they cared about, someone who showed up, who worked hard, who was building a future. The LGBTQ+ community lost one of their own, a young woman who should have been safe, who should have been able to leave a toxic relationship without fearing for her life. Michaela Davis is behind bars. Justice is being served, at least in the legal sense. But that doesn't bring Kanasia back. It doesn't undo the trauma her family is experiencing. It doesn't erase the fear that other people in similar situations are feeling right now. And it doesn't answer the bigger question: how do we stop this from happening again? Here's the twist that everyone needs to understand. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a moment of rage where emotions boiled over and someone made a terrible split-second decision. This was premeditated. Michaela lured Kanasia to that location. She reached out with a plan already in motion. She brought a gun. She pulled the trigger. And then she ran, leaving Kanasia to die alone on that pavement. That's not passion. That's murder with intent. But here's what really gets me: the pattern everyone ignored. Michaela had a history of violence, multiple partners, multiple incidents. This wasn't her first time putting her hands on someone she claimed to love. Previous relationships had ended with bruises, police reports, and restraining orders. But nobody stopped her. Nobody held her accountable. The system saw the warning signs and did nothing. And now Kanasia is dead because the people who were supposed to protect victims of domestic violence failed. Again. Let's talk about the social media evidence, because this is where it gets really disturbing. Michaela's Facebook posts weren't just petty breakup drama. They were warnings, public humiliation, obsessive posting, threats disguised as venting, body shaming disguised as preference, rage disguised as heartbreak. It was all there, visible to hundreds of people. Friends, family, mutual acquaintances, everyone could see Michaela losing control in real time. Everyone could see her obsession with Kanasia, her inability to let go, her escalating anger. But nobody intervened. Nobody reported it. Nobody took it seriously enough to think, hey, maybe this person is dangerous. Maybe someone should check on Kanasia. And Kanasia's friends? They saw the danger. They warned her from day one. They told her to run, to get out, to save herself. But what could they actually do? There was no formal system to protect her, no restraining order in place, no intervention program, no safety net. They watched their friend walk into danger and had no legal way to stop it. Now let's address something that doesn't get talked about enough: the LGBTQ+ factor. Intimate partner violence in LGBTQ+ relationships is severely underreported. Survivors fear discrimination from law enforcement. They fear they won't be believed because society still holds on to the myth that domestic violence only happens in heterosexual relationships. They fear being outed to family, employers, or communities that might not accept them. Resources are limited. Awareness is low. Shelters designed for women fleeing male abusers don't always know how to handle same-sex domestic violence. Hotlines aren't always trained on the unique dynamics of LGBTQ+ relationships. Kanasia might have felt she had nowhere to turn. She might have thought that leaving was her only option, that she just had to get away and everything would be fine. She might not have known that leaving is actually the most dangerous time for victims of domestic violence, when the abuser realizes they've lost control. So here's the real question we need to be asking. How many Mikhailas are out there right now? How many people with documented histories of violence are walking free, unchecked, unsupervised, until they kill someone? How many Kanasias are ignoring red flags right now because they think love will save them? Because they think they're different? Because they believe their partner will change? The system failed Kanasia. Her friends tried to save her, but they didn't have the tools. The warning signs were everywhere, but nobody with the power to intervene took them seriously. And now she's gone. If you've ever been in a toxic relationship, if you've ever felt controlled or scared or trapped, this one's for you. Share your story in the comments. Let someone else know they're not alone. And if you're in that situation right now, get out. I don't care how much you love them. I don't care how much they promise to change. Get out before you become another headline. What can we learn from Kanasia's death? How do we make sure this doesn't happen to someone else? 1. Patterns matter. More than promises. If someone has a history of violence, believe it. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Don't convince yourself you're the exception. You won't be. Michaela had hurt people before Kanasia. The warning signs were there. The pattern was clear. 2. Social media is a window into someone's mind. Public harassment, obsessive posting, threats disguised as venting. These are red flags waving in your face. If someone is airing their rage online, stalking your profiles, posting about you constantly, take it seriously. Document everything. Report it. Protect yourself. Michaela's Facebook was a roadmap to violence, and everyone could see it. 3. Friends and family need a voice. We need systems where loved ones can formally report concerns about someone's safety. Kanasia's friends warned her, but they had no legal power to intervene. Believe the people who see what you can't. Give them tools to help. 4. Abusers need consequences. Arrest isn't enough. There must be real accountability, mandatory counseling, enforceable restraining orders, monitoring. Break the cycle before it ends in death. Michaela should have been stopped after her first violent incident, not her last. 5. LGBTQ+. Survivors need support, culturally competent resources, safe shelters, legal protections. These need to exist for everyone. Intimate partner violence doesn't discriminate based on gender or sexuality. Neither should our response. 6. Control is not love. Jealousy, monitoring, isolation, public humiliation. These aren't signs of love. They're signs of danger. We need to teach young people to recognize the difference between healthy relationships and toxic ones before it's too late. Kanasia Bowie was 25 years old when she died. 25. The same age as the woman who killed her. She was hard-working, family-oriented, full of potential. She had parents who loved her, friends who cared about her, a job where people respected her. She had dreams, goals, a future she was building one day at a time. Her only mistake was believing love could overcome violence. It couldn't. The system failed her. Michaela Davis had a history of violence that should have been a flashing neon sign. The warning signs were everywhere, in police reports, in previous relationships, in her own social media posts. But nobody stopped her until it was too late. Nobody intervened before Kanasia paid the ultimate price. If you see someone spiraling into obsession, speak up. If you're in a toxic relationship where you feel controlled, monitored, or scared, get out. If you know someone who's being abused, help them find resources, support them, believe them. Don't wait for a tragedy to take action. Here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Kanasia posted, "I am single and don't mess with nobody," on January 28th. 24 hours later, she was dead. That's how fast love can turn into murder. That's how quickly control can become violence. That's how little time you have to save yourself or someone you love. If this story hit you, subscribe to Shadows of Crime. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment with your thoughts, your stories, your warnings. Let's make sure Kanasia's death wasn't in vain. Let's make sure the next person sees the red flags before it's too late. Rest in peace, Kanasia Bowie. You deserved so much better.